Hey guys, welcome back to the Temple of Njord. I hope you will enjoy your stay. So today, I want to thank Taproot number 9503 and Cyrus the Skeptic's Discord channel for helping me discover the topic of today's video. As well, if you would like to check out my Patreon in the corner, if you like the content, and drop a subscribe and like if you want to help this channel grow. So today we will be reading an article by the religious newspaper Breaking Israel and the revelation of an ultimate conspiracy to promote evolution and the fight against it. The creator of this article, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Adam Elijah Berkowitz, served in the IDF as a combat medic, studied Jewish law, and received rabbinical ordination in Israel. He has worked as a freelance writer and published 2 works of fiction, The Hope Merchant and Dolphins on the Moon. Or at least, those are the only self-confirmed works of fiction, considering in some of his works for this journal, he has also promoted such ideas as that President Trump is the incarnation of Esau, and President Obama is the Pharaoh from the Bible, based on such things as the number their names are based on, and the president's fabulous red skin and hair color. Now on to the article itself. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Speak, if you have understanding. Job 38:4. And the creation of Adam, combined with this talk about an evolution conspiracy, I wonder what direction you could be going towards. Well, let's read the article. An online petition has collected the signatures of more than 1,000 scientists who are calling into question Darwin's evolutionary theory, a theory that has remained unchallenged for more than 150 years. Many are skeptical of the theory, and one religious scientist calls the insistence on random mutation a conspiracy intended to remove the possibility of a creator, something Darwin himself never intended. For starters, I want to point out that it hasn't remained unchallenged. People, creationists like the author likely is, as well as the scientists who peer-reviewed articles submitted on the subject of biology, have tried to challenge it many times, but the evidence for it repeatedly ends with it successfully holding its ground. This is actually part of how it became the theory of evolution, not just a hypothesis. Law, or model of evolution as a scientific theory, is a coherent group of propositions formulated to explain a group of facts or phenomena in the natural world that has been repeatedly confirmed through experiment or observation. Someone who could successfully disprove the theory of evolution wouldn't just get that on their belt, but likely a Nobel Prize or 2, and long-term funding for any relevant project to advance the new field of biology. Now back to the article. Last week, scientists around the world celebrated the 200th anniversary of the birth of Charles Darwin, the English naturalist and biologist, who first proposed the theory of evolution based on random natural mutation and natural selection. But not everyone is celebrating. The petition states simply, "We are skeptical of claims for the ability of random mutation and natural selection to account for the complexity of life. Careful examination of the evidence for Darwinian theory should be encouraged." The statement was first drafted and circulated by the Discovery Institute in 2001 in response to widespread claims that no credible scientists existed who doubted neo-Darwinism. Discovery Institute subsequently took out an ad in the New York Review of Books and elsewhere showcasing more than 100 scientists who were willing to publicly express their scientific skepticism of neo-Darwinism. Since 2001, the signatures of the statement have grown to over 1,000 scientists, both in the United States and around the world. Signatures of the scientific dissent from Darwinism must either hold a PhD in the scientific fields such as biology, chemistry, mathematics, engineering, computer science, or one of the other natural sciences, or they must hold an MD and serve as a professor of medicine. Dr. Gerald Schroeder, an Orthodox Jewish physicist with a PhD from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, signed on to the petition, agreeing wholeheartedly with its premise. It's time to review the knee-jerk conclusion that evolution is driven by chance, Dr. Schroeder told Breaking Israel News. The unquestioning insistence on random mutation is a conspiracy by the scientific community against the possibility that there might be a creating God. Darwin himself never said it was by chance, Dr. Schroeder noted, citing the final paragraph in Darwin's seminal work, On the Origin of Species, published in 1859. There is a grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed by the Creator into a few forms, or into one, and that, whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been, and are being, evolved. From the start, I would like to point out a flaw. What you are referencing in the beginning actually is a counterexample to your argument that evolution has never been challenged. You see, the base claim that mutations and natural selection are present has stayed the same because of the evidence for evolution that has been gathered over those hundreds of years. The mechanics behind those mutations has itself evolved, with the new evidence coming in with the discovery of things such as chromosomes and RNA, each time posing a test for evolution, and each time ending up with more evidence for evolution being gathered, and it surviving the test of time, with this result of what you are referring to as neo-Darwinism, though it is more properly referred to as a modern synthesis of evolutionary biology, as well as the gene-centered view of evolution. It's also why it doesn't matter what Darwin considered to be the truth of evolution, more than what has been shown to be true. Unlike what many creationists have the strawman image of evolution in their head, Darwin is not a god of evolution, and scientists happily admit and challenge the things that he was wrong on, because at the end, science cares most about truth there is evidence for, and the people who make the claim are said to be right, and is willing to change with new evidence and counter-evidence, unlike religion, which will try to stretch its meanings to still fit around the evidence, as this Dr. Gerald Schroeder is a man who is in fact quite famous for trying to do with the age of the Earth, the Big Bang, and the days of creation. There is a grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed by the Creator into a few forms, or into one, and that while this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. Dr. Schroeder explained that this paragraph was included in the 5 final editions of the book, but not in the first edition, which was published in haste. Some scientists who discuss the theory of evolution intentionally refer to the first edition, which omits the mention of the Creator, Dr. Schroeder said. Or they quote Darwin, but omit the word creator. Dr. Schroeder was careful to differentiate between the theory of evolution and the fact of evolution. It has been proven that life developed from the simple to the complex, Dr. Schroeder said, but this perfectly reflects the process of creation as presented in the Bible. The fossil record follows precisely what Genesis outlined in the first chapter. The theory of evolution as presented by Darwin describes a random process, an assertion Dr. Schroeder believes exposes a prejudice in the scientific community. The word evolution does not intrinsically demand that the process be random, Dr. Schroeder said. There are no data that shows that mutations are random. The likelihood of evolution being random is totally about 0. He noted that there are facts which seem to disprove the theory that have yet to be dealt with. One such inconvenient challenge to random natural selection is the Cambrian explosion that took place an estimated 541 million years ago, when all major animal phyla simultaneously appeared in the fossil record. Previous to the Cambrian explosion, all fossils were microscopic. Darwin himself noted that the lack of fossil evidence for a gradual and random process of evolution posed a difficulty for his field. Perfectly reflects the process of creation as presented in the Bible. I have to say, I'm glad you agree that life developed from simple to more diverse, not just complex, through evolution, and not just trying to use another silly debunked watchmaker analogy, but considering that one of the Genesis accounts has plants after man, which definitely goes against the fossil record, and the other has the sun and moon after plants that would need the sun to survive on. I'm not sure if you have as strong a leg to stand up on as you think you do, at least when it comes to the order of the fossil evidence. Though of course you are right in some way that evolution is not solely random, it is guided by something. That process is called natural selection, and that is part of what guides certain mutations to still survive in their environment. As was said by Henry Bergson on the gene-centered perspective of evolution, life is like a current passing from germ to germ through the medium of a developed organism. It is as if the organism itself were only an excrescence, a bud caused to sprout by the former endeavoring to continue itself in a new germ. To the question why we do not find rich fossil ferrous deposits belonging to these assumed early periods prior to the Cambrian system, I can give no satisfactory answer, Darwin wrote. As per his theory, Darwin has insisted several times in his book, Natura non facet saltarum, Nature does not make jumps. The fossil evidence of the Cambrian explosion directly contradicts this non-jumping aspect of his theory. This anti-evolutionary gap in the fossil record has not been resolved in the more than 150 years since Darwin wrote these words, yet most modern scientists refuse to cope with the contradictory evidence. Stephen Jay Gould, one of the most influential science authors of the past 50 years, wrote about this failure of scientists to criticize random natural selection in Natural History in 1987, calling it a quote-unquote trade secret. This extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as a trade secret of paleontology. The evolutionary trees that adorn our textbooks have data only at the tips and nods of their branches. The rest is inference, however reasonable, not the evidence of fossils. We fancy ourselves as the only true students of life's history, yet to preserve our favorite account of evolution by natural selection, we view our data as so bad that we never see the very process we profess to study. Dr. Schroeder added a strong disclaimer to his refutation of random mutation and natural selection. That does not necessarily prove that there is a God or that evolution requires a God, Dr. Schroeder said, but it certainly proves that the way evolution has been taught to school children for the past 200 years is a lie. This is evil, Dr. Schroeder said unequivocally. This is all part of an overriding anti-religious agenda by the scientific community to establish that the world is a result of random forces. There are so many possible wrong answers, wrong mutations, and vastly few that are good, that the possibility of life evolving randomly is statistically very unlikely. Dr. Schroeder emphasized that learning science in general, and evolution in particular, in an intellectually honest manner can lead to a deeper belief in the Creator. It is interesting to note that Dr. Schroeder's video, Believe in God in 5 Minutes, quote, unquote scientific proof has garnered over 3 million views, but it also has over 20,000 dislikes, Dr. Schroeder said, using this to illustrate that reason and logic do not always win the day in public discourse. Mentioned before, what Darwin thought about the topic doesn't matter in comparison to the evidence when it comes to whether it holds up or not, because he is not the strawman god of evolution and science. Updates itself with the new evidence. Of course, that isn't the only strawman you have in that sentence, with your description of the pre-Cambrian era as quote-unquote previous to the Cambrian explosion, all fossils were microscopic, when in fact, though limited, we have discovered such things as strong evidence of species of Cnidaria and Porifera existing in the Ediacaran era, as well as other mollusks existing. Then you naturally also use this to lead into a bit of a non sequitur to both incorrectly suggest that nothing has changed since Darwin's time with the information about that period, and that this proves that biologists are trying to hide the Cambrian explosion, and of the actually most referenced topics in biology, all to end with a circular reasoning that this proves there is a conspiracy to lie to school children to get them to not believe in a god. Oh, and by the way, for just some of those transitional fossils you were mentioning, and I have a feeling that a good amount of those dislikes you got might have been because you used the same type of fallacious argument in that video too. So in that sense, it might actually be the logic and reason actually winning that you have that many dislikes. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed watching me read this article, and I also want to mention that a friend of mine who runs Turning Tide Studio is about to do an avatar for me, and it would be cool if some of you guys could show support for her work by ordering a commission from her via the link below. If there is a YouTuber, apologist, or topic that any of my viewers think that I should cover, send me a comment below so that I can get exposed before I can even knock on wood. Thanks for watching, and though the temple's closing for now, come back soon to this Temple of Njord.